Hi guys, it's me again, Happysum. Today we're going to talk about another tire list of Vanguard Overdress. This time, this is the newest tire list just before the lyrical booster hits. After the lyrical booster, I think the tire list will change a lot because we got many decks incoming, like 5 or 6 new ride lines, and then maybe will change a lot in the meta game and in the tournament skin as a whole. But let's take a look at the current tire list, the tire list that after DBT02 Brush with the Legends. This is after DBT02 and just before lyrical booster hits. Also, we start at the very bottom. At the very bottom, it doesn't really change really much from the previous tire list. It's still Eugene and Hexaorb. I don't think those two decks are particularly bad or anything. It's just that there are so many better decks than those decks. Especially in the Sim Nation, they just did what this deck do in a better way. And not to mention that these two nations got a new to right line, that is Overlord and Phantom Blaster Dragon. And I think even those two are better than these decks. And so they're at the very bottom, not because they're bad, but because the others are doing much better than these decks. And now for the tire C, which is one step ahead of D. So the bottom is D, and this is the tire C. Tire C, we have 3 decks, which is first it's Magnolia, and then we got Zorga, and we got Prison. So Magnolia and Zorga, I think they got a decent update, but not as good as update as the other decks that are on the top of this tire list. And especially for like Magnolia, I think Magnolia got a better update than Zorga, if I might say. Maybe I'm a bit biased because I faced a lot of Magnolia, but yeah, I think it's doing much better in tournament also. Like if we see that locals in various tournaments, you might see 1 or 2 Magnolia topping, but it's very rare to see Zorga topping nowadays. So I think Zorga has just gone down in the tire list in this new tire. Now both of the Stoichia deck is at tire C, the other is Prison. I guess it still has the same problem as before. It just kind of feels like it lacks finishing move. It lacks that finisher, it lacks that one extra touch to finish the game. But the thing with Prison is it can really exhaust you of your resource. You can really run out of resource while playing against Prison. There's just no way you can win head on against Prison if you go resource by resource against them and head to head with them. I think usually you will end up having no Counter Blast, no Soul Blast, no Soul and no Counter Blast whatsoever, and they're gonna starve you off of your resource. It's a really good control deck, but the problem is if the opponent checks like 1 or 2 heal triggers, usually they cannot finish off, and if they cannot finish their opponent quick enough, this Prison deck usually has problem with deck out because they keep using the 3 drive checks and all the draws in the decks. They are really susceptible to deck outs if they cannot finish their opponent fast enough. I think that's the main problem with Prison right now. If they can get some card like to have that extra little push for a finishing move or some way to return cards from their drop to their deck or something. It might be a little better, I don't know, I'm not sure, but right now it feels like that's what Prison deck needs. It's still a good deck, it can win in many matches, it can win in tournaments too, but ultimately I think it's just tire C. And in tire B we got 2 decks. The first one is Orfist, and then we got Baromagnes. So Baromagnes, before in the DBT1 in the previous tire list is in tire S, or this Gundam. I don't think he's got a major upgrade, but he's still a very good deck, especially if he gets to that 15 soul and you got to finish Baromagnes off. It's really hard to keep up with Baromagnes once Baromagnes reaches 15 souls. You can just suck away your real card every turn. You can pop up to very big columns, and now that an extra finisher that makes you must guard with 2 cards, and also a new order which is able to soul charge 3, which is kind of way that faster, much more faster soul charging. The deck is a little bit more stable right now, and got extra options for finishing. You don't have to go for power only during your finishing. You can also go for hand restricting, that means your opponent has to guard with 2 cards or more. It's really powerful. Actually, it's a really annoying deck to face against, but ultimately I think it's terribly, it's just gone down a little bit because they didn't get a very good support. I think. I mean, like the triple R and the double R doesn't really make any change in the deck. The deck still feels like what it was, and the deck still feels like what it was, but with a little bit more update on the common rare sides. And what I was saying is, like, the common rare is much more useful than the double R and the triple R's. Inside it looks like that. If you look at the current Baromagnes deck list, usually they really don't have that much impact on Baromagnes. The new support doesn't really have that much impact on Baromagnes. It still feels like the same deck, just with a little bit touch of more consistency. And now with Orfist I think Orfist got a major upgrade in this set. They don't really play the same as before. So there are much more ways to create a Shadow Army token. There are much more ways to use your Shadow Army token, whether it's to retire your opponent real guards or it's to draw a card. The deck becomes much more flexible. You can play aggro with it. You can play if your opponent rush you can control rush them with it and control them and extra system of 30 resource with it, and you still can create big power legs. I think the deck becomes much more flexible than what it was, and it has gone up a tier, or it stays in terribly. The point is, Orfist becomes much more flexible, and it's really good because it's not just a one-trick deck anymore. So before in the previous boosters, Orfist kind of feels like a one-trick deck where he just pops up top and then you just hit and grind the game to a late game state. But right now, Orfist got much more than that. He can also retire your rear guard, he can throw cards, he can create Shadow Army tokens, not only from Orfist, he can also create a Shadow Army token from the order. And I think it's a really good set for Orfist. And in the tier A, we got only one deck, which is Nirvana, the new Farina. So with the Erger, you got the extra options that you were looking for at the Nirvana deck for during the previous booster. Like, you really want that counter charger in this deck, and now you got it in Erger. And not only Erger is able to counter charge, it's also enable you to do an extra attack, and it also enables you an access to a bigger shield and a bigger power, which results in the deck to be able to withstand long game, which usually it can't before. Now the deck has much more stamina in it than before. I think it's a really good update for Verena. This entire A, and moving on to the tier S, you got two decks, which is Bruce and Bastion. So the Bastion stays in tier S. I think the support offers much more new gameplay for Bastion. It offers some different deck builds for Bastion. Some people bring Rifle Dragon, some people don't. Some people use 4 of the new orders, and some people don't use it at all. And some people still bring Painkiller and some don't. I think there are like 2 or 3 different Bastion lists right now. He's definitely still at the top. Still very good deck, and still wins a fair lot of tournaments. Still win a lot of tournaments. And the other deck is Bruce. I think Bruce got the best support in the last booster in the Bushiroad. I think compared to all the other decks, Bruce got the best supports. Like Leonard, for example, Leonard is a really powerful card. If you can't really rush Bruce right now, because if you counter rush with Leonard, chances are you got your whole row hit by Leonard, and then you can call rear guards and while getting rid of your attacker and booster at the same time. And not only Leonard, there's so much more cards, like the new order, which give the entire front row plus 10k. That feels like a personal right turn, and it's really good for Bruce right now. And I think you might see Bruce win a lot more than before. The deck kind of feel like needs a personal right every turn in the set before, but right now in the new order you don't have to personal right. You can have a pseudo personal right with the new order and still get that plus 10k to your whole front row. I think his entire S for sure. The deck is really good. So that's a tier list, and last but not least, if you wonder where the two new decks as in place, I don't typically playing it that much. Maybe I will put Overlord entire B and Phantom Blaster Dragon entire C. Phantom Blaster Dragon, I think it's a big disappointment. I don't think it's that good for all the hype that it's created from the moment that they show you they can print Phantom Blaster Dragon in the booster. Didn't really live up to the hype, and yeah, you can say that I was really disappointed with Phantom Blaster Dragon, knowing that Shadow Paladin was my favorite clan and all that. Dragon Overlord is really good, and I think it's competitive also. You can win tournaments with Dragon Overlord, but it's not the most best deck per se, especially if you compare it to the likes of Bruce and Destin. I think he just loses in that. So I would say that Overlord is entire B and Phantom Blaster is A entire C. And that was out our tier list. If you don't agree with me, or if you have some other ideas, you can shout it out in the comment, and then maybe we'll talk about it, and we'll see if I will change the tier list accordingly. But yeah, don't forget to hit the like button and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Again, if you have any different ideas, if you don't agree with the tier list, just shout it out in the comments, and I will respond to your comments. I will see you on the next video.